I wanted to show you a teaching about the traumatized nervous system that I learned from Trisha Wolfe, who is a therapist on TikTok. I'm going to use my little whiteboard here. It's a little hard to see, but I think we'll do okay. So there are 3 nervous system states. You have hypoaroused, you have sort of middle of the road, rest and digest, and then you have hyperaroused or stressed up here at the top. People who are traumatized end up in survival mode. They spend a lot of their time in stress nervous system, and they don't spend very much time in this rest and digest. There are psychological reasons why the traumatized nervous system would want to stay stressed. Probably the person learned to be hypervigilant. So they learned, if I am overstressed and overwhelmed, I will stay safe. But there's also a feedback loop happening that people don't realize, which is the transition from here being frozen, feeling depressed, being down, not being able to get out of bed, and this state of stressed, being overwhelmed, overproductive, overworking yourself, always hyper-aroused. The thing that Trisha taught me was, if you are in this state, it's like being on the brake pedal. You cannot access flow energy to get to rest and digest. Instead, you have to stress yourself into action. So a lot of traumatized people, they go from frozen to stressed, and they totally skip the rest and digest. This is why when you work with a traumatized person and you ask, how do you regularly feel? They'll be like, either I'm depressed or I'm stressed. Either I am asleep or I am very overwhelmed. And this sucks because rest and digest, this is the only place that we ever restore. So this is where we're having human contact, where we're having love, where we are able to digest food, be hungry, experience all the things that humans experience. You might think freeze is restful, but freeze is mostly about shutdown. You're in a shell and your nervous system's not really taking in nutrients or sustenance or warmth. When you're frozen and someone tries to love you and tries to warm you, you can't access flow energy because you're stuck. The only way to get out of that frozen state is to become stressed. So how do you get out of this feedback loop from being either frozen or stressed and never being able to access rest and digest? The answer comes from understanding that the body always makes sense. So if you are someone that whenever you stop moving, whenever you stop being stressed, your body immediately sits on the brake pedal and says, okay, now become depressed and protect yourself. That is an intelligent response. Your body is saying, you are carrying massive amounts of trauma that you need to process, you need to grieve, you need to look at, you need to do something to get that to move through your body, because carrying this is not a good idea. So in the long term, trauma healing is going to get your body to let off of that brake pedal more and more. The other thing that we want to do is try to get you in rest and digest more of the time. Even for the most traumatized person, they will have momentary visits to rest and digest, but because they spend so much time in really negative, uncomfortable emotions, they might not notice it. So let's say you take a sip of coffee in the morning and you have like 1 minute of enjoyment or 2 minutes of enjoyment of that, and then really quickly that feeling dissipates and it sits on the brake pedal again. Someone who is untraumatized, they can ride out that positive feeling for longer without their nervous system going to freeze. So we want to teach you how to attune to when your body feels good and try to experience that for as long as you can before you feel freeze come back. The other thing about the nervous system is we have this window of tolerance thing. So, maybe your rest and digest is like a very small amount, and you have like really big amounts of your nervous system dedicated to freeze and stress. People who are not traumatized have a larger window of tolerance, so they can usually handle more before they become very overwhelmed and very overstressed. So a stressor or a loud noise or some sort of input would not bother an untraumatized person as quickly as a traumatized person. So over time, we want to take your window of tolerance where you are resting and digesting and make it more expanded so you can experience more things without leaving rest and digest and either becoming frozen or having some hypervigilant or overwhelmed reaction. And if you had good co-regulation with your parents growing up, parents naturally do this, and you can watch them with their kids. Their kids have like a tiny window of tolerance to process their emotions or feel overwhelming things, and they'll sit there with them and they'll go, "You're okay. You're okay. This is happening, but you're okay. Look, you're here with me." And that mirroring process literally gives the kid more tolerance and more ability to feel intense things and know that, oh, I'm okay. But if you were traumatized or you were neglected, you probably didn't have that support. So you didn't have someone sitting there going, "You're okay. You're okay." And to some extent, that's kind of what your therapist does for you if you're in trauma therapy, is like they're sitting with you and helping you process things that are really intense and figuring out that you're okay. And the more time that you spend in rest and digest as you heal, the more your body is banking that energy, right? It is recovering more. It is able to restore more. It is spending more time in that digestive place where it can revitalize its energy. So the more time that you spend in that restorative middle place, the more you are teaching your body how to return to that middle place, and you're banking energy because you are restoring your energy more often. What are some ways that you can get out of freeze without stress and practice it? Well, a lot of the time, this is the role of medication in people's lives because they can't get out of bed and they need something to help them be able to at least show up for life, at least function. And a lot of the time, a supportive medication can get it to where people can actually process their trauma because they can't even move. How are they going to go to trauma therapy? There are other ways to wake up the nervous system that have all kinds of things you can Google. Some people like to take cold showers or go out into the cold. I don't like that. I like the warm. I have heating blankets. I like to take a bath. I like to warm up my nervous system instead of jolt it awake. Light is really good for your nervous system. They say first thing in the morning, go outside and get the light in your eyes. Be with the circadian rhythm. If you do things with light, if you expose yourself to the natural light, you tend to sleep better also. All things with the senses, smelling things, tasting things, just basically engaging your senses. Some people like to brush. They'll get like dry brushes and brush all over their body. Some people hate that. I also love sound. I'll put on my noise canceling headphones and I have different noise making apps that go like they make that sound. All of these nervous system warming techniques to get you out of freeze, all they're trying to do is warm up your engine. It's as if you were turning on your car in the morning and it was cold. Everyone knows what it's like to feel like your brain's not working, like your system is not awake. Everyone has to warm themselves. And for traumatized people, it's harder for us to warm ourselves. And we don't even realize that we sort of create these lives that are very stressful lives because stress is the only thing that really seems to animate us or get us going. So when you start doing your trauma work and you realize, I do not want to experience a stressful life anymore. I do not want to have a really dramatic relationship or have a really shitty boss or do stuff every day that I don't want to do. A lot of the time when you change your life, you will then find that you are very depressed all the time. And the reason is because stress is the only thing that keeps your life running. So you got to figure out another energy for yourself that is not stress and hypervigilance and fear. And so you have a nervous system problem to solve. How do I wake up my nervous system without fear? And it is this long-term process. It is all those things. Maybe it is just having someone loving there guiding you and helping you along the way, helping you spend more time in rest and digest. Maybe it's a medication. Maybe over time, you go to stress less and less often, and you spend more time here, and you're finding that you're less frozen over time. But I think the most important thing to remember is that this is intelligent. If your body is telling you, freeze, don't move, there is always a reason for that. And there might be a chemical imbalance in your brain, but there is also an energetic something or other. There is something that you need to look at. You would never have sadness and say, there's no reason for the sadness, right? There's always an intelligent messaging system. It doesn't mean it's exactly true what the body is telling you, like the story that it's telling, but the chemical message has intelligence. It will make sense. And over time, as you're in therapy, you will understand what those reasons are, that your nervous system wanted you to stop moving and pay attention to whatever it was carrying. So I hope this was helpful for you. And yeah, it seems like I need to get some thicker markers.